scholarship Reza, we welcome him through the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In these past few nights, we've been talking about the commentary of Sura Insaan, and we, in line with that, have also been talking about the faculties and the capacities for and of the human being. And last night, we talked about the capacity for humans to love and to care for others. We said that capacity for humans ultimately is to love the infinite. The things in this world are finite. Whatever we love in this world, whatever we are attracted to, are ultimately finite. And we experience this when we get to that thing that we love. When we attain our beloved in this world, a lot of times we sense deep down inside of us, inside our hearts, that we're not satisfied. If our beloved is wealth, if it's status, if it's a person, whatever it might be, once we reach and we attain our beloved, we realize that there's something missing. There's something that we still yearn for and seek. And so Allah says that your true beloved, that thing which will give you true peace and tranquility in your heart, is Allah, the infinite, the eternal, the thing that whenever we get close to, we still have an infinity to reach. Ala bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. Indeed, it is only with the remembrance of God that the hearts are tranquil and they reach that peace. And then we said that once we reach, and once we love Allah, once we desire and yearn for Allah, then we also love His creation, the things that remind us of Him. And then we turn our love towards the creation of Allah, whether it is our fellow human beings, our communities, or the rest of Allah's creation. We don't have the right to destroy this earth. We don't have the right to subjugate animals or plants or whatever else Allah has created except with the permission of God. And so that's why when you are slaughtering an animal, you only are allowed to slaughter an animal not for fun or for entertainment, but insofar as you are feeding yourself. We can't, in fact, one of the things that prevents a person, usually a fasting person, if they are traveling, they don't fast while they are traveling. But one of the things that breaks that rule is if a person is traveling for some sort of sinful intention. someone travels, say, to Las Vegas because they want to bet, or if they're traveling to some other city because they want to engage in some sort of haram act, that type of travel actually, you do not break your fast. You're required to fast when you are doing that type of traveling, that type of safar. One of those that the ulama have mentioned is actually going out and hunting for entertainment's sake. If you go and kill an animal for entertainment, purely entertainment, not to feed your family, not to feed your community, but purely for entertainment, our ulama say that that is not a valid type of travel. And so, we're not allowed to subjugate or to kill the creation of God beyond that which Allah has allowed us. We have to care and we have to love Allah's creation. So when Allah describes what it means to be good, part of goodness is defined by our care for His creation. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah describes goodness for us. He says, in ayah number 177, Allah says, لَيْسَ الْبِرْ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. It's not good. Usually a lot of times we think that if we do a ritual, then we have done something good. If we turn our face towards Mecca, if we pray to Allah, then we have done something that is good. Whereas Allah says, that's not the criteria for goodness. I want to read the ayah for you. It is ayah number 177, in which Allah says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. It's not good for you to turn your face towards the east or the west. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. Whereas goodness is for you to believe in Allah وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and for you to believe in the Day of Judgment. وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ, with believe in the angels, our means to coming back to Allah, the book, and the prophets. وَآتَ الْمَالِ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى. So along the definition of goodness is first Allah, our proximity to Allah, and our means of getting close to Allah, and then without any break, without any distinction, Allah now talks about our responsibility towards His creation, and to give the wealth towards those who are close to you. Ala hubbi, despite your love of that wealth, ala hubbi dawil qurba, those who are proximate, wal yatama, and those who are orphans, wal masakin, and those who are in need, wal sabil, and those who are stranded, was sa'ilin, and so on and so forth. So goodness is defined by our belief in Allah, by our ability to get close to Allah and the means Allah has set, as well as one of those means are our love and our care for Allah's creation. And this actually is manifested in different ways. One of the ways that it's manifested, and we see this in the behavior of the Ahlul Bayt in particular, first with the Prophet of Islam and then with the rest of the Ahlul Bayt, is that the Ahlul Bayt were always people who were joyful. And they would interact with their communities and their companions and whoever was around them with joy and with happiness. Sometimes you have this image of the Prophet, or an image of Imam Ali as a person who's very stern, a person who doesn't joke around, very serious. But actually, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali, was known to be a joyous and almost like, if we were to kind of put it in our own words, almost a funny person. A person who people were glad to be around. Actually, one of the reasons that was given for Amir al-Mu'mineen to be passed over for the Khilafah after the second Khalifa was that Imam Ali had this du'a, this kind of joy that he expressed. A Khalifa should be stern, he should be serious. You can't laugh or have enjoy his time. Other people can't enjoy their time around him. Whereas Amir al-Mu'mineen was characterized as a person with du'aba. Actually, one of those instances in which he was characterized was by Amr ibn As. When Imam Ali was faced with the army of Sham, it's interesting that Imam Ali, he was so famous for his this conviviality, this joyousness, this sort of pleasure that he would engage in, and he would be a good person and good company. It is said that Amr ibn As was spreading this rumor that because Imam Ali was a joyous person, therefore he did not deserve the Khilafah. And Imam Ali responds to this. He says, عَجَبًا لِبْنِ النَّابِغَةِ يَزْعَمُ لِأَهْلِ الشَّامِ أَنَّ فِيَّ دُعَابًا. It's surprising that this Amr ibn As, calls him Ibn Nabigha, he has made the people of Sham think that I am a person who just is a frivolous, over-the-top, joyous person. وَأَنِّي امْرُؤٌ تَلْعَابٌ. And I just engage in sort of loose and frivolous entertainment in this world. So Amr ibn As kind of makes this exaggerated claim about Imam Ali, but everyone knew that Imam Ali was not this stern and sort of unwavering person that people would imagine, or that we imagine today. There's actually jokes that have been passed down, or sorts of humor that has been passed down from the Ahlul Bayt. Since it's the month of Ramadan, and sort of the end of the month of Ramadan, we're all a little bit tired. We're basically trying to figure out a way to finish the month as quickly as possible. I'll just say one joke that has been transmitted or reported from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a famous one. Maybe some of you have heard it. And again, it's a report. It has been reported in our books of hadith, but some of these are not entirely authenticated. So the joke is this, or the event, the scenario is this, that an old woman comes to Rasulullah, and she asks Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, am I going to also enter into heaven? Rasulullah says, no old women are going to enter into heaven. And so this lady cries, and she's saddened, and she's not expecting this type of response. And then Rasulullah responds by saying that, of course, before anyone enters into heaven, they become youths, and of course old women don't enter into heaven, but young women enter into heaven. Allah will inshallah transform you into one of those young women. Maybe it wasn't that funny for all of you, you had to be there for that joke. There's another joke in which Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is said that a person comes and presents a gift for the day of Nowruz, or Nowruz, that is celebrated by people from the Iranian background. And then it said that this person comes and he brings a gift for Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Amir al-Mu'mineen asks, he says, what is this gift? What is the occasion? And it is said that the person says, well, this is the day of Nowruz, a new day, right? Nowruz means new day. And then Amir al-Mu'mineen responds by saying, Isna'u lana kulla yawmin Nowruza. You brought us a gift today, but make every day a Nowruz. In the sense that bring a gift for us every day. Again, one of those things you have to be there. You have to have a sense of it. Thank you. And this is just one facet, right? To have that sense of joy, to be a person who people want to be in their company, to kind of bring a brightness to other people's day. And it's other aspects as well, right? This kind of love for community, for other people around us, it's this sense of care. That I care about you, and you are a priority in my life. Another place that this becomes manifested, and we have to really appreciate this in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, is in fasting. We have this, you all have this custom amongst you where you break the fast before the salat. And this actually has a representation in the ahadith. There is a hadith of our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Where the Imam says, it's actually mustahab to pray before you break your fast. So, before I break my fast, it's mustahab for me to pray and then break the fast. So it's better to delay the iftar after the salat, because then you will be counted amongst those who have prayed while being fasting, which has its own great thawab, its own great reward. But then there's a caveat here. There's an exception here, where the Imam says, "In kana ma'ahu qawmun yakhsha an yahbisahum an asha'ihim falyuftir ma'ahum." It's mustahab to pray before you break your fast, except if you are amongst other people. And you are afraid that those other people will be kept from their food. In such a scenario, when you are in the company of others, and when you know that others need to break their fast, or even they want to break their fast, maybe that's their custom, then it's better for you to go and break your fast with them. وَإِنْ كَانَ غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ فَلْيُصَلِّ ثُمَّ لِيَفْطِرْ. If it were in any other scenario, if you were home alone, or if you were with your family, and your family, you have this custom where you pray and then break your fast, then do that. So we have these different priorities and these different values in Islam. One of the highest values in Islam is the value of being in community. The value of caring about not my own needs, and maybe not even where I think other people should do, but to interact with them with how they are. And this is an important thing. It's an important point. Sometimes we expect our family members, our children. For those who have children, sometimes we expect our children, or our spouses, or our friends, or our community members to be at a certain level of, for example, taqwa, of iman, of practice, and we say that we have to make them reach, if they're not already there, we have to make them reach that level of iman, or that level of practice. And so sometimes we might even cut off our relationship with those people because we say that they do not live up to our standards. Maybe they engage in something that they shouldn't be engaging in. And it might be my family member, or my son, or my daughter, somebody who's close to me, even my community members. They don't live up to the standards that I have for them. Allah does not allow me to cut off my relationships or my relations just because they don't live up to my standards. One of the priorities of Islam is community. We have other priorities as well. But it does not allow us to denigrate or to relegate this priority because we have other priorities. So one of the highest responsibilities we have is to keep those relations intact, even if those people don't live up to our standards. That is, and that comes from this care for other people. My son or my daughter, for example, does something that I don't approve of, or my wife or my husband doesn't do something that I approve of, I still have to balance those priorities in my life. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. But of course, just as there are priorities in terms of my connection with my community and my love for my fellow human beings, for my community members, for my family, and so on, there's also a sense for adl, a sense for justice. We're talking about balancing these different priorities. So we have this hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali, that has been mentioned in Nahj al-Balagha, where the Imam is asked, Ayyuhum afdal? Which one of these two priorities, which one of these two values is better? Al-adl aw al-jud? Is it better to be just, or is it better to be generous? What would we say? You should be just, you should care about kind of justice, equality, and so on, but you should always forgive, right? Maybe that would be our priority. Forgiveness, that's the ultimate criteria. We talked about, I spent 20 minutes talking about being kind and compassionate towards other people. But sometimes we're so compassionate towards other people that we are unjust towards those who are closest to us. Sometimes I'm so willing to give from myself, I'm so willing to host other people in my house, I'm so willing to give in charity that I forget about my family. Right? I'm so willing to forget about myself and to give to other people who are in need that I sometimes forget about those who I am responsible to take care of. And so Islam does not say that this is Jude, or this is generosity, or this is love that is unbounded and that is unfiltered, that is unlimited, or that is sort of that goes beyond any type of limitation. Islam says, even when you are being generous and you are being loving, you have to set certain parameters for yourself. So you don't go against those other priorities that Allah has set. And so when Amir al-Mu'mineen, he is asked which one is better, generosity or adl, he says, justice. Al-adl is better. يَدَعُ الْأُمُورِ مَوَاضِعَهَا. Because justice places different things, different affairs in their proper place. وَالْجُودُ يُخْرِجُهَا عَنْ جِهَتِهَا. Whereas generosity takes those things outside of their place. Adl requires a person who is sinful for them to be chastised. A person who has done something wrong for them to be punished, or for them to be taught that what they have done is incorrect. Whereas Jude, generosity, tells me to forgive, tells me to turn away. Right? On the one hand, Adl places things and people in their proper place. Person is sinful, they must be either punished or they must be censured for their action. A person does good, they must be praised for the thing that they have done. Whereas Jude, generosity, tells me to forgive. Maybe a person doesn't deserve my respect, but I respect them anyway. But Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the basis and the foundation for a Muslim society is adl, and then we make a place for generosity. وَالْعَدْلُ سَائِسٌ عَامٌ. Adl is a driver that is general. It's the baseline, the foundation upon which we establish our lives. وَالْجُودُ عَارِضٌ خَاصٌ. Whereas Jude and generosity is something that you apply in certain circumstances. My son does something wrong. I know he does something wrong. And I understand and I recognize that what he has done is incorrect. He doesn't pray. I don't say, okay, you don't pray, that's fine. I don't say that. I try to teach him as much as I can. I try to guide him as much as I can. And I definitely don't say that prayer isn't important. Sometimes we might get to that level of generosity. Allah doesn't allow us to say prayer is not important, fasting is not important. But then, when I come and interact with my son, I recognize that there is something that he must do. There is a right action and there is a wrong action. But then I forgive in that specific circumstance. I say, you are my son and I can't separate and cut off ties from you. I forgive you because I have a responsibility to guide you. Whether it's through my tongue or through my actions, whether I am telling you and teaching you or I'm modeling good behavior for you. Doesn't always have to be constantly reminding. It could be reminding through your actions. That is the relationship between these different values that Allah and the Prophet has set. So we care about our fellow human beings and particularly our community members and even more so our families, but then we don't forget our values as Muslims and in particular as mu'mineen. Because ultimately, when we think about our love for the creation of Allah, it is a love that directs us back to Allah. It's not a love that is the end of our journey. It's the means to our journey back towards Allah. So the more that we love Allah, the more we love His creation, and that love for our creation should be a means by which we help that creation go back to Allah and get closer to Allah. So we have to find those ways that are most effective to take that creation back to Allah. And so when we think about Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf, and I'll have this be my last word. Fortunately, we didn't get to the translation of the Surah, inshallah, in upcoming nights. But when we talk about Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa Nahy 'anil Munkar, it's not, sometimes we think Al-Amr is the command. My son doesn't do what I need him to do, or my brother doesn't do what I need him to do. He doesn't stay away from evil. He doesn't fast, he doesn't pray, he doesn't do whatever he needs to, and so I command him. That's not what Amr bil-Ma'ruf means. First, Amr bil-Ma'ruf requires me to know what is ma'ruf, to know what is good. So it starts with knowledge. I have to be confident that what I am telling that person is right. Then second, I have to think about what is the effective way to get them to do that which is good. To get them to pray, to get them to fast. If I find that what I say takes them farther away from their salat. If I tell them that you shouldn't, na'udhu billah, inshallah this is a problem that we have, but for them to, for example, to engage in illicit activities, or to have bad friends, or whatever else they might be engaged in. If I tell them and I realize that by telling them they're actually going and doing those things that they're not supposed to do, even with more fervor, then it's not actually a requirement for me to say it anymore. Maybe I have to show them in terms of my actions. Maybe I have to show them in one way, tell their friends, for example, or tell someone else to go and give them this message. Whatever it might be, the criteria is effectiveness. It's not a simple wajib or haram that I am trying to do. I'm trying to find what's the most effective way for me to communicate this message to them. And this is, again, one of those messages that we get from Rasulullah. Rasulullah, he would communicate with his people according to the extent of their understanding. Rasulullah says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And I will end, I promise I will end with this last hadith. I said that a few minutes ago, but I will end with this one. Rasulullah, it is reported, he said, إِنَّ مَعَاشِرَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ نُكَلِّمُ النَّاسِ. We, the group of the Anbiya, the kind of the community of the Anbiya, نُكَلِّمُ النَّاسِ عَلَى قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. We speak to people according to the level of their intellect. We don't give them more than they can bear. We don't speak them in ways where it would become difficult for them. This is actually a very important point for us. If I know the person can't handle something, this sometimes is an issue with converts, for example, but even people who are trying to increase their acts of worship or their iman, if someone can't bear some action, or can't bear, for example, some wajib thing, and they don't know that they're doing something wajib, and I realize that it's difficult for them, right? It's not a responsibility for me to now go and tell them. This actually happens a lot with mustahabbat. I tell someone, it's really good for you to read the Quran every day. You should read the Quran every day, and I know they can't do that. Why do I give them that difficulty for them to come and feel that thing that I have told them about? And so you have to understand not only those things that are wajib, we have to understand what is the most effective way to communicate al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, and ultimately that requires us to know our audience, to know what they can bear, to know what they can understand, and to know what they can implement in their lives. We should tell our families, we should guide our family members, our friends and our community members towards that which is wajib, and to take them away from that which is haram, but we should as well understand these different aspects of our requirements to do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. I will end it there. Inshallah, in the upcoming nights, we'll talk about these ayat of Surah Al-Insaan, in which Allah describes paradise. But I will end with this dua. Oh Allah, allow us to understand your religion, allow us to implement it into our lives and into the lives of our families, of our communities. Oh Allah, allow us to understand what are those priorities that you have set for us so that we can abide by those priorities. And oh Allah, make us familiar daily, increase our familiarity with the Quran and with your guidance. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu Muhammadin wa alihi wa